Hi everyone, welcome to Failure Hack. At Failure Hack, trying to destigmatize failure through conversations with various entrepreneurs. And today we have on board Darsh Golechha, who is the founder of Monech, the first automated financial advice platform. He's an ACCA holder and a CFA Level II candidate. So Darsh, welcome on board. We're glad to have you here.
Hey Aditi, great to be here, and thanks for having
Great.
me.
That's great. Okay, so Darsh, actually, we have a couple of questions for you. And the first one being that we've always, did you always have this entrepreneurial spirit in yourself? And, was it something that you have always planned? And moving on, how has it been your experience up to date? Like, building the company as a whole?
Right. So, just to start off, right? So, I'll to answer your first question, right? So, having an entrepreneurial spirit, I just know that I can't, be the kind of a person who takes directions from people. So, I think, not being able to do that is, in a way, you can say that having an entrepreneurial spirit. But jokes apart, but I mean, I always had this thing that I kind of wanted to do something for make a difference or make a change in lives of people, right? It wasn't I never had any idea as to how I could do it. I mean, I still don't know the best way to do it. I mean, I still don't know the direction per se, if I'm to say that. But I always have this thing that we all are given an opportunity, right? So why not make the best of the opportunity, because there are people who are less privileged than us, who are not even at this stage in their lives. We have this kind of a background, and because of our parents, we are quite privileged in that sense. So having said that, I always wanted to make the best use of the position that I am in, right? And that is where I believe that I kind of started thinking in this manner, that like, yes, let me make the best of the time and the opportunity that I have, right? So I think that should answer your question about having an entrepreneurial spirit or not, right?
Definitely.
uh,
Yes.
yeah. And sorry, can you just repeat a second question? I'm sorry, I kind of forgot.
Yeah, sure. So my second question was, how has it been your experience up to date? Like, you don't like, it's very common that people who have this kind of spirit, they really do not like taking instructions from someone else. So, how has it been? And, how has it been your experience as an entrepreneur?
Well, I'll tell you the first time I kind of thought of being an entrepreneur, right? So the first time it happened was when I was in college, right, in my final year, we had organized this event. Okay, so this event wherein me and my friend, we kind of were the brainstormers behind the event, wherein we thought that let's have something on entrepreneurship, because it was just starting off in the year 2017, 2018. Right, this was the time when we had it, right? So college students, entrepreneurship for us, we were in a, we are from Christ University, right? So I'm from Christ University. So for us, it was like a new thing, right? You open to commerce, not really exposed to that word at all, right?
Correct.
So that's when we thought of an event. So we used to have these business fests a lot, okay? And we thought that business fests are very hypothetical in nature. I mean, there's nothing very realistic. I mean, you do have certain rounds, but again, everything
Mhm.
is so, it's all a gala event. There's nothing, there are very few actually fests that actually go down and drill down to realistic practical experiences, right? So what we thought is that, okay, we are being taught as to how to manage a business, but none of us are being taught how to start one, right?
Okay.
So that is where we kind of thought that let's have an event around this, right? So we thought, and we kind of thought about it, and then we started off an event called Incline, okay, in
Okay.
in college in Christ. And that's when so we had a 3-day event. I didn't even know there was something called edtech or fintech. I mean, nothing, clueless. I mean, 2 years, trust me, I mean, 2 years have been a very different journey, from not knowing anything about tech to now actually doing something in tech, right? So yeah, and that's when we kind of started off. And it was if I'm to say, we kind of had a decent event, wherein we had people, venture capitalists and tech startups and clients, and even the HRD ministry kind of supporting us in that way, helping us kind of take us through the event. And that is where I actually thought that there's this huge opportunity which lies ahead of me, right? And that's when my journey for entrepreneurship started. When I thought that I should do something, I should start something of my own, right? Yeah, and then that's when I thought about it. But again, you never know what to do, right? I mean, you have so many ideas, right? I mean, as like I was 18 years old, so for me it was like wow, like life just happened, right? So I mean, so many
It's
ideas and
really
everything just. Sorry, sorry, yeah.
I think that is really interesting, the entire story about your entrepreneurship journey. That really excites me, in fact.
Oh, okay. I mean, I mean, happy to hear that. But yeah, I mean, I came back home, right? I was going to join in a couple of companies, but I didn't. I came back home, and I was working with a family business, which is also into financial services, right? Just to I mean, obviously, so I come from a background wherein we have a family business. So I'm a so I come from the traditional Orthodox Marwadi Jain background, right? So for us, it's like family business may you have to do something before you do anything else, right?
Absolutely,
So
yes.
right, so that's some experience that we have to have. So I was like, okay, let me just help my dad a bit. So I went into it, and that's when I was actually on ground working with him, right? That's when I kind of had the idea of doing what I'm doing right now, right? So that's where the problem kind of came into my mind, that this is a problem that exists, right? So this is a very so we had a 3-day exhibition, right? And so I personally spoke to around 3,000 to 4,000 people on ground. So I was on the sales end, right? So on the exhibition, so if you see an exhibition, you will have people who are selling stuff, right? So we had the sales people on ground, and I was tasked to sell financial products, right? And when I was talking to people, right, that's when I kind of realized that there is this problem which people are facing, and there's no not really a solution for this problem, especially in India, right? And that's where the fintech vertical began, right? That's when Monech conceptualized, right? In fact, if you see the idea of even naming the startup comes from there, for us. So it's a combination of money and technology. So that's how I believe that's how focused we are in terms of what we want to achieve, what problem statement we want to solve, right? So yeah, now just telling you about the 2 years since it's been. So this happened in 2018 around September, if I'm not wrong, right? So it's been 2 years and 2 months now, and I mean, it's been like, you can say it's a lot. I mean, college is nothing compared to this. I mean, trust me, it's so much. It's so much. I mean, you have to do everything, right? I mean, that's the first thing. So I mean, when I started off, I had to kind of. I mean, I was alone, right? So I did not have anyone. So I did not have a tech co-founder. I did not have a team. I did not know anything about technology. I did not know anything about machine learning. I mean, just a young finance kid. I mean, literally a kid who just came about having worked with a few companies. So that's all I was, right? But then, yeah, I mean, experience teaches you. One thing I really learned along the way is you have to unlearn a lot of things that you learned. uh, it's a lot because you can't talk to people the way you do when you were, let's say, an employee, or when you were in college as a student. You cannot do that. You have to really change your way of talking to people. That's one. Communication is very important. That's something I really learned right along the way, one of my biggest learnings. Second is there's a lot of patience that's required. I mean, patience is a very big thing, especially for us, because we come from an industry. So fintech is an industry which is highly regulated, right? So everything keeps changing. I mean,
Mhm.
in October 2020, they changed a lot of guidelines. SEBI changed a lot of
Right,
guidelines. So we had to kind of
right.
revamp. So it keeps on changing. It's an ever-changing industry. And second, biggest thing is I learned patience is very important. And third is network, right? It helps. I mean, people say network is your network, but I believe that a network helps you learn a lot of things. It makes you wiser, because you learn from so many people experiences. I mean, there's a big saying, right, that a man who learns from their own mistakes is an intelligent man, but a man who learns from others mistakes is a wise man. So you've got to be wise. You got to change the table there. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been in three words, if I have to say: communication, patience, and the last one, network. So I think these are three key learnings that I've had. in my journey so far. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that was firstly, I thought we are actually getting into a, like a startup accelerator, because you actually gotten so many points out that we'd love to hear from you on. Just talking about
Oh,
how you talked about having that one spark, right, back in college. That's basically every entrepreneur, I believe. Not just, that wouldn't just be you, wherein everybody has that spark and then they're clueless as to what to do next, but they have that spark, right, and they hold that and then they push through, and then they learn everything, in the meantime while they're working on that. So I think
yeah.
on the ground learning, like you mentioned, is a very important part. What I've seen is that people don't really understand the importance of that. What they feel is that if a person is supposed to be an entrepreneur, they'll be like that since they're a kid. I don't really believe that, because it's only when you're working in the field is when you realize a problem, and then you having the ability and the perseverance to solve that problem as an entrepreneur comes in. So it's not necessary that somebody is an entrepreneur way back from since he was a child or something, or somebody cannot do entrepreneurship when they're in their late 40s. I don't really think it has an age. So I think that's one great thing that I've got from this conversation, as per your answer. Another thing I believe, I mean, I don't think I'm talking to a guy in his early 20s. I think I'm talking to a guy who's like a industry veteran, who's had, I know, tons of years of experience, because the way that
Don't
you've
make
been
me old.
explaining this, the way that
Not
you've been
that is
explaining this
fun.
is amazing, right, Darsh? Because
Yeah.
all of these are really, really practical points. It's just that, I mean, of course, even for us, even for me and Aditi, it's really new, because somebody who's not been in your shoes won't be able to get it 100%. And I think that's just something that people have to deal with. It unless I mean, we can hear everything about entrepreneurship, we can read every book, but unless and until you've actually been there and done that, I think that is really important. So I think that was another great advice that I've actually received from you, which I'm very proud of. Just building onto the fact that you mentioned that you had this idea back when you were 18, and then you were really trying to figure your way out. You did not have a team, did not have a plan in mind. Also, I think one of the other limitations, that I'm not sure if this is something you may have faced, but most of the entrepreneurs in their early ages, what they face is a limitation where people think that they're not really serious, or they're not really I'd say mature enough to handle a business. And these could be internal, these could be external, right? There could be people undermining you, maybe having you in that self doubt. So again, we know how the idea of Monech came into place, but what were the other obstacles that you faced along the way? External, internal, what were the different problems that you faced from other people, from your own self? Were there things that you had to, completely um, unlearn? Were there things that you had to like focus on? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, firstly, so see, one of the biggest problems that an Indian entrepreneur has to face is family and peer pressure, right? So if I'm to talk about external stuff, so that's been uh, I mean, that's been one obstacle that I personally had to kind of I wouldn't say overcome, but I had to kind of ensure that it didn't come in my way, right? Because when you are at an early age, everyone says that you're supposed to do a job, and takes you 3 years of experience and then go into entrepreneurship, or 4 years do an MBA or do a masters and get settled and have some money, and then so there's this big notion of what you're supposed to do, right? And that breaking that wall especially was very difficult for me, because I had to kind of ensure that people around me understood what I was doing. See, a lot of times initially people didn't understand. If you would go back and if you tell my friends in 2018 or 2019 that I was doing a startup, they would just say yeah, okay, I mean, that's all. Like it wasn't a big deal like how it is now. Startup wasn't the buzzword, at least in 2018 it wasn't. 2019, yeah, when people started getting funding, like Byju's came up and everything, right? So that's when people actually started understanding, okay, there is something called a startup industry, right? So till then, so this external factor was a big thing, which I personally faced, right? The second thing which I also did face is lack of resources, right? Personally, because not having a team is one, but also initially you don't have a lot of money to start up, right? That's a big challenge, especially for people who are young, people who are between this 18 to 25 years of age, just graduating or just passing out. If they want to start up something, they don't have money. So the good part was that, so then I had to work part time, right? So I used to work part time. I used to I remember, I think I did tell you once that I also teach ACCA, right? So yeah, so I had to teach, and I also had to do a lot of odd jobs here and there, right? Freelance somewhere. I mean, you have to do a lot of stuff to kind of get that money to run your business. That is very important. So that was, that required a lot of effort, to be honest, because you're not used to that 7 days working, right? So I mean, there's no weekends, there's no weekdays in a startup. I mean, I realized this in 2 years. There's nothing, like every day is the same. It's a weekday, weekend, every day is a startup day. I mean, it doesn't matter. Every day you have a meeting, you don't have a meeting on Saturday. It doesn't really matter, right? So that's another thing, right? uh, Another thing is, it's a lot of I know there's this huge thing on mental stigma that is there, right, for entrepreneurs. I believe I was just reading an article a few days back on how it affects the psychology of entrepreneurs, how entrepreneurship affects the psychology of people, right? So I think that's a point that should be discussed, right? I this is just a feedback for you guys as well. So whenever you do talk to people, right, so just ask them about this factor as well, because I think that it affects people in a very different ways, right? Like for example, initially there's a lot of self doubt that you have to face, because not really a lot of people support you initially, right? Even now, if I'm to say, right, there's always this sense of doubt, as to how you're going to approach, and whether you're going to get customers. Everything is a stage, right? So every stage you'll have this level of self doubt. Okay, I've acquired these many customers. Okay, I've gotten this much funding. Now what? There's always going to be a next step. This is a never ending journey, right? So that's always going to be there. So yeah, I mean, overcoming that fear is very important, wherein, yeah, you do have a conviction, you have a determination, and you have a passion when you start off, and that's always going to be there. But over a period of time, you have to not let that noise affect you. So there's uh, I don't know if any of you have seen this, but do any of you watch cricket? Any of you follow cricket? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's very good series on Amazon Prime by Justin
Mhm.
Langer. Okay, it's called The
Okay.
Test.
Yes.
Okay, right. So it's by the Australian team, as to how they came back from the saga, the David Warner and Stephen Smith,
Yeah.
ball tampering saga, right? And in
Yes.
that, Justin Langer says a very important quote, right? He says, "Don't let the white noise affect you. It's all white noise."
Wow. Okay.
Right, it's all white noise, and that actually reminds me of a journey in entrepreneurship, right?
Mhm.
So it's literally like that. So you don't have to let that noise affect you. There'll be people who will be telling you, there'll be people from big companies like EY, KPMG. I mean, I'm talking about the industry that I belong to, right? So the big companies, the big four, right, all of them would be saying that, do this, do that, your product is this, we don't see a market for this. Investors will tell you, we don't believe this, right? Your friends will tell you, dude, just go work somewhere, like come chill with me, I mean, there are a lot of these noises, and your family will tell you, yeah, kya kar rahe ho? Matlab, there's always going to be this white noise, but you have to not let that affect you. So that's another obstacle. I wouldn't say obstacle, but that's something that uh, I think everyone should learn, be it an entrepreneur or not. I just think that that conviction should always be there, in whatever you're
Definitely.
doing.
And the conviction has to be long term, because what also happens is that initially, like you mentioned, right, you have the spark, you have, the ambition, you have the idea, and you may persevere. But in the process of it, there's just a lot of continuous hits from external sources, which you actually have to rebound. I think that is again a very important thing. And I believe most of these, entrepreneurs across, right, take Bill Gates for that matter, even people like Jeff Bezos say that there will be these obstacles along the way, and if you're not even sure about having the ability to actually bounce back, don't even get into it. I think that's
Right.
really it hits you, right? Because the person is challenging you to make sure that you are able to take those hits in the future as well, and that is, I believe, a very important thing, especially for an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah, you're perfectly right. I mean, the determination is one thing, right? And staying determined is another, right? So
Definitely,
this,
definitely.
it's
Word.
a it's a big right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's I mean, of course, I can probably go on and on about the obstacles because there's so many. But I mean, I'm just trying to kind of get
Yes.
it down to make it
I mean,
on a macro.
the crux that you've actually got to us is that you will have obstacles. Being an entrepreneur, or rather being any person who's trying to accomplish something, you will have these obstacles. May not be the same for every person, right? I mean, for example, for you, it's probably just a lot of people telling you that it may not work, but you yourself are determined and perseverant enough to understand that there is a scope for this. And it's not necessary that every person may have the same issues, but the ability to handle that is something that is, again, something that is a continuous learning process.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop once you've, okay, so maybe 5 years I've held up to this startup and I've made it successful. It doesn't matter that for the next 5 years, you may not have the strength to hold it. It's a
Right. Right.
continuous process. It's not necessary that, okay, this is after 5 years I will have the ability to not hear any noise. That's not it. Probably an event in the future may actually hamper that and make you doubt yourself, which is not something that you should let yourself be affected with.
I,
But
I
yeah.
think I, I think one small thing I'd like to pick up from what you said is that there should be self doubt. There
That
should be
is
self
true.
doubt. I mean, I
That is
believe that
true.
an entrepreneur should be self doubt, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you should. I mean, if you see Steve Jobs and if you see how these guys worked, right? I mean, they were never sure of what they made until it reached their level of expectation,
Right.
right? So you should always doubt, okay, does the customer want this, or why am I doing it right? So yeah,
Yeah.
but then you shouldn't doubt yourself too much. So then there's a thin line
Getting
between
that
that. So
balance is something that is very, very
very
crucial, I believe. So yes,
exactly.
again, that's until you do it, you don't know it. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's again great. Yeah.
So, moving on, I really heard a lot about your startup. So, can you please tell us, like, what does Monech do exactly and what makes you unique?
Well, sure. So, okay. So I'll try to kind of, make tell you in a gist, right? As to
Mhm.
what the solution what we are building right now, right? So basically, the problem that we are trying to solve is that we look at things a little bit different from what people currently are thinking, right? So, currently people think that financial advice is only, let's say, buying of a financial product. That's the biggest notion that is there in people's heads, especially in India, right? I'm talking about the Indian market right now. Okay. So,
Right, right.
yeah. So, if you see, for example, people who are, just starting off in their lives, right? They do not have a number one, a lot of knowledge about which financial product or what to do with every little financial decision that they have to take, right? So that is the problem that is where we look at things. We don't look at it as buying a product, wherein we look at taking every small and big financial decision accurately, right? That is the idea that people are currently the problem that people are currently facing is that they're not able to take it accurately. And that's the biggest challenge that we have seen, right? After we have spoken to a lot of people in that target segment that we have, right? So that's one. And one more thing is that um, people cannot afford these high cost financial advisors that we call them, right? Because a person who is just earning, let's say, 50,000 or a 70,000 rupees per month, or let's say even a lakh, they cannot afford an advisor of around 40 to 50,000 per annum. That just takes away like 1 month's salary. So it's realistically not possible for them to do that, right? So that's especially a target market. If I'm to say that those are the kind of people you want to solve it for. People who are under 35 and who are earning below 80,000 to 1 lakh rupees per month, and who are currently in a salaried position. I mean, people with their own business have a different value proposition in itself, right? So we don't want to touch those people. So we want to help people take right wealth decisions, right? That's the problem. And for that, the solution that we are building is very simple. So wherein we are letting an individual now create your own wealth assistant, right? So for example, let's say, I mean, both of you fall in our target segment, so great. I mean, we can also have I mean, you can of course jump in when you feel that I'm saying wrong about you guys. right? If I'm making a
Definitely.
generalistic statement about you.
No, I think
But yeah,
also I do know about Monech, right? So basically, Aditi, the idea is that this is a search engine for all of your financial decisions. That's what Darsh, I believe,
That
correct me if I'm wrong, right? So
spoken
he
to
is
me
actually trying.
earlier about.
Sorry, Aditi?
I think you had already spoken to me about this, I think,
Yes,
couple of
yes, I
months
did.
back.
Yes, yes. So,
Flipkart,
Darsh,
right?
before I had the conversation with you, I actually also had a conversation with Aditi. She's also in the financial markets. So, I actually thought that, I'd get some opinions and thoughts from her and also, resonate them to you. So, I think that was, one of the conversations we've had. But all in all, I believe, Darsh, you're trying to create a search engine for all of the financial decisions for every kind of I'd say, earning bracket in the country especially. And I believe it for us millennials and, even for the coming Generation Z, I think spending a lot of money on an advisor would be really stupid because we are the internet generation. We can actually Google and find anything, almost anything, I believe, today. And we can absorb a lot of information in a very short period of time. I think that is one of the benefits of being, or rather having a lesser attention span, is that we are able to actually grasp stuff very easily and very quickly
right,
compared to the other generations. And I think that is
right.
where Monech fits in. I mean, I think that's also anything you'd like to add on to that? Anything I may have missed out?
Yeah, I mean, you're bang on when it comes to defining a product. I mean, you might have defined it better than me, so thanks for that. But having said that, yeah, I mean, that's literally it. So basically, the search engine wherein you can just come in and ask any question. It can be anything. It can be as small as a question as, let's say, you want to buy a laptop and which EMI should you take? As simple
Right.
a question as that, or as complicated as a question as, which insurance should I put my money in? Right? So it's across small and big decisions. You can give me affordability decisions, spending decisions, investment decisions, liability decisions, selling decisions, anything. Right? So the idea is to help you with decisions. So just imagine, tomorrow, let's say a year down the line, you can just ask Alexa that how much which card should I pay, which how should I make my payment using which card, and Alexa just tells you that according to Nucleus, which is our product, you should make your payment according with this card. So that's the level of assistance you want to reach. So yeah, that's about it.
So, I did have a follow up on this. So, like, you are really focusing on, like, you can say, people who are generating revenue like 80 to 1 lakh or 80,000 to 1 lakh or something of that sort. So don't you think that disclosing income or disclosing what you want to do financially becomes a very confidential matter, and people would not prefer really giving that information out?
um,
I mean, because you're just an online platform. So when you're going to go to an actual person, you really have those kind of confidentiality agreements what you sign. But when you do the same thing online, would the person, really be able to trust you
yeah,
guys?
exactly. So
This happens when I get two
yeah,
financial people on board. Yeah, I mean, they start getting into the technicalities of everything. I mean, sorry, go on, go on.
well, well, I think Aditi and I can have an hour-long discussion on this, but
For
probably
sure.
more. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, a really good question. I mean, this is a very simple question of data privacy that comes in place, right? That's the first thing, and second is trust, right? So, and of course, the third becomes consent, because that's where your question lies more, wherein you say that you can you can give it in writing to a financial distributor or anyone who comes to your place, but how about us? So that's why we have built so this platform that we have built, we take your consent on day one itself. So it's an online legal consent wherein everything is detailed, right? So we will tell you as to what data we are taking, when we are taking it, at what frequency, and how many times will we be taking it during the next 1 year. but
Well, I'm sorry
but
for
yeah,
that. I mean, but I think all of this makes Monech what Monech is, right? It is that
yeah,
unique platform for this generation, and I don't think there's anything out there which comes even close. So I think you're in that open field of like a blue ocean strategy to what you're doing. But
I
yeah,
hope.
I think that is
Some
great.
first
Yes.
market advantage here.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
mean,
I think
yeah.
that's what you're trying to
Sorry.
give in the trust and the so sorry, but just to finish up on that, because I think her question is left a little unanswered.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the trust and consent part, right? That's why we're bringing in insurance, and we are also telling the customers that, you know what, if your data is compromised, these are these are the things that we will take into consideration. So these are steps that we will do. We will put in place in order to get your data back. Or, we are doing a lot of skimming methodologies, security, steps and standards according to the international data protection and privacy rights. So GDPR, that is there, the global data protection rights. We are making our software and platform according to that. So, that is just for the customer trust and consent. So yeah.
Well, that's again, like I mentioned, all of these. Firstly, I mean, for me, everything is new, but I think this is something which is very, very unique, I believe, to Monech as far as what you've learned about you. Uh, just talking about your journey, right? If you had to give me one example of an obstacle, a huge obstacle that maybe Monech had faced, almost failed, and then succeeded, is there one example you could give me? I mean,
One
and I'm talking
example.
about that one example, right? That actually blew your mind off, and you couldn't really think. So is there such an event that has happened with Monech? And I hope it hasn't, but I mean, it's just a lot of content for
Sure.
us
So,
then.
so are you asking are you asking me wherein we were just gonna fail and then we kind of just came back, or
Did you
something like
have
that?
such a did you have such a
Where you actually had a standstill where you were like, I don't know what am I doing and why am I doing this? Did you
yeah,
ever have that kind of point?
Oh, I
not
have
the
it every
regular
day,
self
trust me.
doubt though.
But no, yeah, I get your
Yeah.
point, right? So, yeah, this happened this year in this was between, I think, Feb to May, right? So, I mean, so we were going to raise a round during in the month of February, a seed round, right? And everything was finalized. We kind of had the investors share their agreements over email, and everything was done. And this was March 4th or 7th, okay? And I spent 3 months. I went to 8 different cities to speak to these two investors, right? Convince them. And so what happened was that in March, we were supposed to close the deal and everything was supposed to get done. And the lockdown happened, right? That happened. Okay. And as an investor, as a startup, we're just hopeful that the investors don't back out, right? Because lockdown and everything was haywire. And the tech team that we had gotten, they kind of did certain, there were certain issues there in terms of the tech that they had developed. And suddenly that everything was good, in terms of everything was going smoothly. Just started going smoothly, that is, and then suddenly everything just fell apart. Like a lot of elements started falling apart. Regulations changed. We had a lot of things happened together. So there were these 2 months wherein I really I personally also faced a personal loss with my grandmother passing away. So yeah, for me it was like, personally and professionally, I personally had faced a lot of challenges together in like 2 3 months. And the I mean we were at a dead end, wherein we did not know what to do, because you know we did not have a lot of resources left with us. The tech that we have developed were not 100% foolproof, right, and not yet ready to go to market. We couldn't show it to further investors because of the situation of the market. And considering that we were pre-revenue startup at that point, for us to show it, it was very difficult, because no one trusts pre-revenue startups during the lockdown, at least, right? So we were at that stage. And i mean yeah, so basically, like, it did take a little bit of time
Right.
for me to kind of once you reach a dead end, you don't really see too much. I mean, yeah. So, but then, having said that, I did take some time off. I think that helped. I think it's always good to take some time off when you're not thinking or seeing things right, and when things are not going your way. That is something which I really think all of we should really do in anything, be it career or personal, anything, right? And yeah, it helped. And over a period of time, we slowly figured out we kind of pivoted our model a little bit. We kind of changed our launching strategy. We kind of changed our go-to-market strategy a little bit. That's what entrepreneurship makes you do. It makes you think. The best way to launch your first iteration in the least possible, with the least possible friction, right? So that is something that we kind of learned, all of us, in the team. And yeah, and then in the last couple of months, it's been, hopefully good. So yeah, let's see how
Well,
that
I
goes.
think, the way that you've also mentioned that you actually faced quite a lot in a very short period of time. And, for all those people out there who are actually working in startups and who sometimes get very overwhelmed, right, in terms of what they're trying to achieve. They have the self-doubt, of course, but they also have these moments of truth where they may or may not make it. And also not necessarily just work, right? So you also had a personal issue that came up during this time, and sometimes they become overwhelmed with all of that, all of what's going on outside. I think with the white noise aspect that you mentioned previously, this is again, I would say, considering this as white noise would actually help entrepreneurs take it forward, because being limited by the kind of I'd say problems all around you, or the situations all around you, is just another way of trying to limit yourself in terms of the work that you're trying to do and the goal that you're trying to achieve. So I think it is really important, again, like you so I'd say perfectly mentioned, is that these things will come and go. I think it's just the way that you persevere with the idea and the maintaining that conviction for the long time is something which is, I believe, very important.
True, true.
I think, I'm not sure how many points we've discussed today, but just taking a note of all of this, I think this was a great conversation, Darsh. I still cannot believe that I'm talking to a guy who's younger than me, because I actually feel like I've talked to a guy who's been in the industry for about 30, 40 years, and he's giving all of his experiences and he's sharing it with us. And I think me and Aditi, I think we're honored to have you on our platform. And we wish you all the very best from Failure Hack to Monech. And we hope that, your next round of funding is a lot bigger than the one that you were going for. And we
Thank you.
would really love to be, the people who were the first to get Darsh on board and talk about this. But all the very best, and thank you so much for being a part of our conversation today. I'm very sure that our listeners have learned a lot from you, not only in terms of entrepreneurship or failure itself, but also the different ways of looking at problems. I think the point where you mentioned that it is really important to take a break is sometimes that it's something that people don't really get. I think, they think that when you have a problem, delving more into that problem will solve it. But sometimes the answer is to actually take a step back and look at that problem from a third person's point of view, or from a different angle. And
Yeah.
I think that's also something that you beautifully mentioned. So thank you so much for that. Again, Dash, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation today, and it was great having you here.
Thank you so much, and I mean, really happy to be here. I mean, really happy to talk to you again, Chirag, and
Yeah.
talk to you, Aditi, for the first time. And great having you guys. Ask me so many questions so candidly. I mean, I think this is the first time I have ever kind of spoken to anyone in this way. I have never been so vocal about the challenges that I've faced. But considering that this is in itself a platform for people to know about that, I think really good initiative, and congratulations on this to both of you. And
Thank you.
I hope that a lot of entrepreneurs do come out and be very honest about their challenges and don't sugarcoat them, because that is the only way I think that everyone is around you is going to learn, everyone around us is going to learn. And I think that only then would your mission and purpose of failure had be solved, the what you guys are trying to do. So great initiative, and thank you so much. And thanks for
Fabulous.
the wishes,
Yes.
and
Thank
wish
you.
you guys the best.
All the best. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you for that as well. And yeah, I mean, I think this was great. Thank you so much. Just for all those people out there who feel that you have a story to share with us, all of our listeners, you can, of course, get in touch with us. And yeah, we wish Monech all the very best. And Darsh, again, thank you so much and have a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All the best.